The lawn care industry moves billions of dollars every year, selling you nitrogen in a bag, iron in a bottle, and micronutrients in a spray. Every product is marketed as essential, precisely targeted, and irreplaceable. But a small, quietly growing group of homeowners has stopped buying all of it. They are mixing fertilizers from kitchen scraps, garden waste, and grocery store staples that cost almost nothing, and their lawns are outperforming professionally maintained turf in ways that are genuinely difficult to explain until you understand the chemistry behind them. But before we get into it, you need to know the most important thing your grass really needs, what the lawn care industry sells you, and what your grass actually needs. Walk into any garden center and the fertilizer section presents itself as a wall of science. Slow release granules, liquid concentrate, weed and feed combination, iron supplements, soil acidifiers, each product in its own packaging, each packaging with its own application rate, each application rate requiring its own spreader setting. The system is designed to feel complex enough that stepping outside of it feels risky. The actual nutrient requirements of lawn grass are not complex. Grass needs nitrogen for leaf production and color. It needs phosphorus for root development. It needs potassium for stress tolerance, drought resistance, and disease suppression. It needs a supporting cast of micronutrients, including iron, magnesium, calcium, and sulfur, that commercial products either undersupply or supply in synthetic forms that bypass the soil biology that makes nutrients available to roots in the first place. The fundamental problem with commercial lawn fertilizers is not that they are ineffective. It is that they are designed to feed the grass plant directly, rather than to feed the soil that feeds the grass. Synthetic nitrogen applied to lawn soil produces rapid green growth, but does nothing for the microbial community that builds soil structure, processes organic matter, and makes nutrients available over time. Over successive seasons, lawns fed exclusively on synthetic inputs become dependent on those inputs, with biological activity so reduced that the grass cannot maintain health without continued application. The homemade fertilizers in this script work differently. They feed the soil biology first, the grass second, and the result is a lawn that improves its own capacity to grow better with each successive application, rather than becoming more dependent on external inputs. But before getting into the recipes, there is one ingredient that appears in almost every effective homemade lawn fertilizer, and understanding why it works changes how you look at everything else on this list. Number 9, grass clipping tea. Most homeowners bag their grass clippings and remove them from the lawn entirely, which means they are removing the single largest source of free nitrogen their lawn produces every time they mow. A kilogram of dry grass clippings contains roughly 35 grams of nitrogen, 12 grams of potassium, and 4 grams of phosphorus. A nutrient profile that matches commercial fertilizer ratios almost exactly, because the clippings were built from the same nutrients the grass already extracted from the soil. Grass clipping tea takes this logic one step further. Fill a bucket 2/3 full with fresh grass clippings. Fill the remainder with water. Allow the mixture to sit in a warm location for 3 to 5 days, stirring once daily. The water will turn a dark green-brown color as bacterial decomposition releases soluble nitrogen and other nutrients from the clipping material into the liquid. Strain out the solids, dilute the liquid at a ratio of 1 part tea to 10 parts water, and apply to the lawn using a watering can or garden sprayer. The diluted tea delivers a fast-acting shot of soluble nitrogen directly to the root zone, along with a bacterial inoculant from the decomposition process that contributes to soil biological activity. Because it comes from the same grass that grew in your lawn, the nutrient profile is precisely calibrated to what your specific grass variety has already demonstrated it can use. The solids left after straining are not waste. Spread them back onto the lawn surface as a thin top dressing, and they continue decomposing in place, adding organic matter and continuing to release nutrients slowly. Grass clipping tea costs nothing, takes 5 days to prepare, and produces results within 48 hours of application on actively growing turf. That speed of response is what gardeners notice first. What comes next on this list works even faster, and it fixes a problem that synthetic fertilizers actively make worse over time. Number 8, Epsom salt and dish soap. Lawn, drench. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is the central atom in the chlorophyll molecule, the compound that makes grass green and drives photosynthesis. Without adequate magnesium, grass cannot produce chlorophyll efficiently, regardless of how much nitrogen is present. Lawns that receive regular synthetic nitrogen applications without magnesium supplementation often develop a yellowish tint that persists despite continued fertilizing, because the nitrogen is driving growth that the magnesium supply cannot support. Sulfur, the second component of Epsom salt, is a structural element in plant proteins and enzymes, and also acts as a mild soil acidifier, which is beneficial for most lawn grasses that prefer a slightly acidic soil pH. Sulfur deficiency produces symptoms almost identical to nitrogen deficiency, meaning lawns that appear to need more fertilizer are sometimes simply sulfur deficient. The recipe is straightforward. Dissolve half a cup of Epsom salt in 4 liters of warm water. Add 2 teaspoons of standard dish soap. The dish soap is not a nutrient. It is a surfactant that reduces surface tension in the liquid, allowing it to penetrate thatch layers and move into the soil rather than running off the surface. Apply the mixture through a garden sprayer across the lawn surface, aiming for even coverage. Results in magnesium-deficient lawns are visible within 5 to 7 days as chlorophyll production increases and the grass deepens noticeably in color. In lawns that are not deficient, the effect is less dramatic, but still measurable as improved stress tolerance and slightly accelerated growth rate. This is one of the most frequently dismissed homemade lawn treatments because Epsom salt's reputation as a bath product makes it feel implausible as a fertilizer. The gardeners who dismiss it are the ones continuing to buy iron supplements and color-boosting fertilizers for the same problem. What follows this one targets a deficiency so common in suburban lawns that correcting it alone has transformed lawns that had not responded to any commercial treatment for years. Number 7. Used coffee ground slurry. Used coffee grounds contain between 1 and 2% nitrogen by dry weight, along with measurable concentrations of phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and copper. They also contain compounds that feed the fungal component of soil biology, which is consistently undersupported in lawn soil that has been treated with fungicides or subjected to repeated synthetic fertilizer application that favor bacterial over fungal soil communities. The method most gardeners use, spreading dry coffee grounds directly on the lawn, is the least effective approach because dry grounds tend to form a water-repelling crust on the soil surface. The slurry method is more effective. Collect 4 to 6 cups of used coffee ground. Mix with 8 liters of water and stir thoroughly. Allow to sit for 24 hours, stirring occasionally. Apply the resulting slurry directly to the lawn surface using a watering can, distributing as evenly as possible. The water carries soluble nutrients from the grounds directly into the soil. The grounds themselves, distributed across the lawn surface in a thin, wet layer, rather than a dry crust, decompose rapidly and feed the soil biology that processes them into plant-available nutrients. The microbial bloom triggered by the coffee ground decomposition is itself a soil-improving event, increasing biological activity in the immediate area and stimulating the enzyme production that makes other nutrients more available to grassroots. Many coffee shops give away used grounds at no cost when asked directly. A few regular collections from a local coffee shop supply enough material for multiple lawn applications across a growing season at 0 input cost. That covers the nitrogen and micronutrient angle from an organic source. The next formula on this list approaches the same goal from a completely different direction, using something that most homeowners have in their kitchens and never consider taking outside. Number 6. Banana peel. Potassium. Brew potassium is the nutrient most directly responsible for lawn resilience. It regulates water movement through grass cells, governs the opening and closing of stomata during heat and drought stress, strengthens cell walls against disease entry, and drives the carbohydrate storage that allows grass to recover from mowing, foot traffic, and seasonal stress. Lawns deficient in potassium green up quickly after nitrogen application, but then yellow rapidly, brown at the leaf tips in dry weather, and struggle to recover from wear. Commercial potassium fertilizers exist, but are rarely applied by homeowners who default to nitrogen-heavy products. Banana peels are approximately 42% potassium by dry weight, along with meaningful concentrations of phosphorus, calcium, and magnesium. The brew method is simple. Collect the peels from 6 to 8 bananas. Chop them roughly and place in a large jar or bucket. Cover with 2 liters of water. Leave for 48 to 72 hours at room temperature. The water turns pale yellow-brown as potassium and other minerals leach out of the peel material. Strain the liquid, dilute with an additional 2 liters of water, and apply to the lawn surface. The diluted brew delivers a significant potassium boost to the root zone within hours of application, with results visible as improved color stability and reduced leaf tip browning within 1 to 2 weeks in potassium-deficient turf. The spent peels after straining can be composted or buried shallowly in garden beds. Nothing is wasted. What follows this is the formula that experienced homemade fertilizer users consider the most complete single-ingredient lawn treatment available from a kitchen source. And the reason it works so comprehensively surprised even the people who developed it. Number 5. Diluted urine application. This is the formula that gets dismissed immediately by people who have not read the research, and applied quietly by the gardeners, getting the best results with the lowest inputs on this entire list. Human urine is sterile when it leaves the body in healthy individuals. It contains urea, a nitrogen compound that commercial fertilizer manufacturers synthesize industrially and sell as one of the most widely used lawn fertilizers in the world. It also contains potassium, phosphorus, and a range of trace minerals, including zinc, boron, and molybdenum, that grass uses in small quantities and that commercial fertilizers often fail to supply. The nitrogen concentration in fresh urine is high enough that direct application damages grass through osmotic stress, drawing water out of root cells rather than delivering nutrients to them. Dilution is not optional. The correct ratio is 1 part urine to 10 parts water for lawn application. At this dilution, the nitrogen concentration falls within the range that lawn grass can absorb without stress. The potassium content contributes meaningfully to the overall nutrient profile, and the trace minerals provide supplementation that no single commercial product matches comprehensively. Apply the diluted solution through a watering can to sections of lawn rather than the entire area at once. Rotating application zone to prevent any single area from receiving excess nitrogen from accumulated applications. Water the area lightly after application to move the diluted urine into the root zone and prevent any ammonia volatilization at the surface. Gardeners who have tested this method against commercial nitrogen fertilizers consistently find comparable or superior results in terms of green color response, growth rate, and sustained improvement. 0 versus the price of a bag of synthetic urea-based fertilizer per application. The next formula works from the other direction entirely, addressing not the nutrient supply to grass, but the soil condition. Any nutrient, homemade or purchased, is actually used. Number 4. Compost tea with molasses. Standard compost tea is water that has been aerated with compost added to it, producing a liquid rich in the bacteria and fungi that populate healthy soil. Adding molasses to the brew provides a carbon food source for those microorganisms, causing a population explosion in the brewing vessel that multiplies the biological load of the final product by a factor that transforms what would be a mildly useful soil drench into one of the most powerful biological soil treatments available outside of commercial biostimulant products. The brew requires an aquarium air pump, an air stone, a 5-liter bucket, 2 cups of finished compost, 1 tablespoon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses, and 4 liters of dechlorinated water. Dechlorinated water is simply tap water left uncovered for 24 hours, during which the chlorine dissipates, or rainwater if available. Chlorine in tap water kills the biological community you are trying to cultivate. Add the compost and molasses to the water. Run the air stone continuously for 24 to 36 hours. The brewing liquid will develop a slightly earthy foam as bacterial and fungal populations multiply rapidly. Strain out the compost solids and apply the liquid to the lawn within 4 hours of completing the brew, before the aerobic organisms begin dying from oxygen depletion. Applied to lawn soil, the biological load in a well-made aerated compost tea inoculates the root zone with populations of beneficial bacteria and fungi that decompose thatch, process organic matter into plant-available nutrients, suppress pathogenic organisms through competitive exclusion, and produce growth-stimulating compounds, including auxins and cytokinins that directly accelerate grass growth rate. This is not a nutrient delivery system. It is a biological activation system, and its effect on lawns that have been damaged by synthetic inputs, fungicide applications, or simple biological neglect is often more dramatic than any nutrient application because it restores the soil's capacity to feed the grass rather than feeding the grass directly. Now here is where the system behind all of these formulas comes together and why combining them in sequence produces results that none of them achieve individually. Number 3. Seaweed liquid. Concentrate. Seaweed collected from beaches or purchased in dried form and brewed into a liquid concentrate provides one of the most complete micronutrient profiles available from a natural source. Seaweeds accumulate minerals from ocean water at concentrations far exceeding those found in terrestrial soils, including iodine, selenium, cobalt, and a range of trace elements that grass uses in very small quantities, but that are consistently absent from both synthetic fertilizers and most soil environments. Beyond the mineral content, seaweed contains natural plant hormones, including cytokinins, gibberellins, and betaines that stimulate root growth, improve stress tolerance, and activate dormant growth meristems in grass plants. Commercial seaweed extracts sold as lawn biostimulants leverage exactly these compounds at significant cost per liter. To make the brew, collect fresh seaweed if accessible from a coastal area. Rinse with fresh water to remove salt and chop roughly. Alternatively, use dried kelp meal available from organic garden suppliers. Fill a bucket 1/3 full with the seaweed material and top up with water. Cover loosely and leave for 2 to 4 weeks, stirring every few days. The resulting liquid, strained and diluted at 1 part, concentrate to 30 parts water, is applied to the lawn surface through a garden sprayer. The smell during brewing is significant. Locate the brew away from areas where the odor will cause problems, and recognize that the smell dissipates within hours of application to the lawn. The results in terms of growth rate, color intensity, and stress recovery more than justify the brief olfactory unpleasantness of the process. What follows is the formula that ties every other treatment on this list together into a system that outperforms any single application, including commercial ones, and the logic behind why the sequence matters as much as the ingredients. Number 2, the full system sequence and why order matters. Each formula on this list works independently. Applied in sequence across a growing season, they work as a compounding system where each treatment improves the conditions for the one that follows it. Begin with the compost tea in early spring, before the first fertilizer application. The biological activation it provides prepares the soil to receive and process subsequent nutrient inputs far more efficiently than biologically depleted soil would. Biological activation first means that every subsequent input is used more completely rather than partially lost to leaching or volatilization. Follow with the Epsom salt drench 2 weeks later, addressing magnesium deficiency before nitrogen application begins. Applying nitrogen to magnesium deficient soil produces growth that cannot be fully supported by available chlorophyll. Correcting the deficiency first means the nitrogen that follows produces deeper color and stronger growth rather than pale, weak shoots. Begin grass clipping tea applications from the first mowing of the season onward, applying after every 3rd or 4th mow throughout the growing season. This maintains a continuous low-level nitrogen supply between other applications, without the surge and crash cycle that synthetic nitrogen produces. Apply the banana peel brew in mid-summer when heat stress and drought begin reducing lawn resilience. The potassium boost at this stage specifically addresses the stress tolerance mechanism at the moment it is most needed, rather than applying it at an arbitrary fixed schedule that ignores what the grass is actually experiencing. Use the seaweed concentrate once in late summer to stimulate the root growth and carbohydrate storage that determines how well the lawn survives winter and how vigorously it emerges the following spring. Late season root investment is the single most undervalued activity in lawn management, and the seaweed concentrate's cytokinin content specifically targets this growth phase. The coffee ground slurry is applied in autumn as the lawn is preparing for dormancy, feeding the fungal soil community that remains active through winter at lower temperatures and continues processing organic matter even when the grass itself has stopped visible growth. The diluted urine application is used reactively rather than on a fixed schedule, applied to sections of lawn that show early signs of nitrogen deficiency between other treatments, providing an immediate response without the expense or environmental impact of a synthetic nitrogen application. This system costs, across a full growing season for a standard residential lawn, a fraction of a single bag of commercial fertilizer. It improves the lawn's biological foundation with each passing season rather than depleting it. And it produces the kind of deep, sustained green growth that neighbors notice and attribute to expensive professional treatment. Because the idea that kitchen waste grass clippings, and coffee grounds are responsible for the result does not occur to them as a possibility worth investigating. The one rule that determines whether any of this works. Every formula on this list fails under the same condition: over-application. The instinct when something works is to apply more of it, more frequently, with greater concentration. With homemade fertilizers, this instinct produces the opposite of the intended result. Nitrogen from any source, applied in excess, burns grass roots through osmotic stress. Potassium applied in excess competes with magnesium uptake and produces the magnesium deficiency the Epsom salt treatment was designed to correct. Compost tea applied too frequently to the same area overwhelms the soil biology with inputs it cannot process fast enough, creating anaerobic pockets that harm the same organisms the treatment was designed to cultivate. The discipline of these treatments is in their restraint. Apply at the dilution specified. Rotate application zones. Allow 2 to 3 weeks between applications of different formula types to the same area. Observe the lawn's response before repeating any treatment, and reduce frequency if growth is already vigorous. The lawn that is growing well does not need more fertilizer. It needs the conditions that made it grow well to be sustained, which means supporting the soil biology, maintaining the moisture conditions that keep the root zone active, and resisting the impulse to intervene with additional inputs when the system is already performing. The gardeners getting the best results from homemade fertilizer systems are not the ones applying the most products most frequently. They are the ones who understood early that the goal is a self-sustaining biological system in the soil, not a lawn permanently dependent on external inputs of any kind, homemade or purchased. That distinction is the one the lawn care industry has the least interest in teaching you and the most to lose from you understanding. Before you go, which of these 8 formulas are you starting with this weekend? Or have you already been using one of them and seen results that a commercial product never delivered? Share it in the comments. The range of results across different grass types and soil conditions is something every gardener on this channel benefits from reading. If you are ready to stop buying fertilizer and start making it, subscribe now. And if you think homemade fertilizer is the deepest this rabbit hole goes, click the next video. What experienced no-input gardeners are doing with a single ingredient from their compost pile makes everything on this list look like the beginning of a much longer conversation. We will see you there.